Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have very big news coming out of Ukraine. Today we're learning that Ukrainian forces went last night down to Crimea with some missiles and struck the Russian Rostov-on-Don submarine, which was in the Crimean port, and now that submarine is at the bottom of the Black Sea after it sunk directly following that attack. A massive victory for the Ukrainians, and also a major embarrassment for the Russian forces. We're also hearing as well that coming out of Israel, US officials expect a major attack by Iranian-backed forces, and also Iran themselves, on Israel in the coming days, and also we're hearing of Israel carrying out even more assassinations on the Hezbollah forces. But with that, we're jumping into our first article of the day, which goes to Null Reports. And this is the biggest story of the day. We're learning from the Ukrainian General Staff that Ukrainian forces successfully struck a Russian submarine and an S-400 missile system in occupied Crimea, and 4 S-400 launchers were significantly damaged, and the B-237 Rostov-on-Don submarine, which was hit in the Sevastopol port, it sank immediately following the missile attack, and the submarine was valued at $300 million, and it was undergoing repairs after a previous attack in September of 2023. So like I said, a major loss for the Russians, and also in our next post here from Military News Ukraine, this is actually a photo of the submarine that was destroyed from September of 2023 when it was attacked last time with missiles, and right here you can see a major hole in the side of it, and actually at this point it was in the Crimean dry dock. It was pretty much assumed that this vessel right here was probably catastrophically damaged to the point where it's really not really fixable, but it was sort of up for debate whether or not the Russians were actually going to try to repair it and to bring it back to life. But now there's no dispute whatsoever, now that this thing's at the bottom of the Black Sea, this thing is not coming back and it is totally finished, and that is $300 million down the drain. So absolutely massive victory for the Ukrainians, and very good news coming at a very turbulent time in the world. And with that, we're moving on to our next article here, and this one goes to Status 6 Military and Conflict News, and we're also hearing word that Ukrainian drones also hit a fuel depot located near the city of Kamensk in the Rostov Oblast of Russia last night, and also the NASA firms detected the fires on the territory of the facility. So taking a look at the photos here, you can see this is a very large facility indeed, a very large one, a fuel depot with a lot of silos to it, and also this was a massive fire caused by this attack. So let's take a look at the video and see how big these fires really were. And as you can see here, that entire fuel depot is on fire. It's burning and the black smoke is everywhere, and the multiple silos were on fire. And as we know, the Russian fire department, being very incompetent, does not have the tools nor the skills or expertise to be able to put this fire out. So it's very likely these fires will spread and probably burn down the entire complex right here full of this fuel. So this is a lot of potential losses for the Russian equipment to be able to refill their trucks. So this is a very big deal, and the entire facility is up in flames. And also, just as proof the fires are indeed spreading, you can see right here on the NASA firms map, the entire facility is now engulfed in the large red blocks, which means the entire place is on fire indeed. So it did go the way I predicted. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, and this one goes to OSINT Technical. And also during last night, not only did Ukraine take out a submarine and also a fuel depot, but they also took out the Russian Morozovsk airbase, and we see here in this post additional footage of an absolutely massive secondary detonation at the airbase after a successful Ukrainian drone attack overnight, and most likely it was bombs or rockets going up. So let's take a look at the massive explosion at the Morozovsk airbase. And right here you can actually see it. That is a humongous explosion right there, presumably of munitions being stored in some type of hangar or a warehouse right next to the airbase's airfield, but that is a almost nuclear level explosion, and these Russians are sitting right over here in their car filming it, and this is massive. So quite significant damage at the airbase last night, and once again a massive attack on pretty much everywhere in Russia, including Crimea last night, by the Ukrainian forces. And also staying on the topic of the Morozovsk airbase, we're moving into our next post here, and this one goes to Max24, and we're learning that a state of emergency has been declared in the Morozov district, says the Rostov government, and in the Kamensky district, fuel tanks were damaged and subsequently caught fire that we saw a moment ago, and due to the burning fuel, there's a high concentration of harmful substances in the air. So on this topic alone, I would have to agree with the Russian government. This is indeed a state of emergency, but this seems to be becoming commonplace across Russia thanks to these massive Ukrainian attacks. So while the air concentration is not good, good when it comes to harmful substances in the air, the Russians ought to get used to it, because until Vladimir Putin decides to call off the war, it looks like this will continue happening until, Putin decides to back off. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, and this one goes to null reports. And also, just as more proof here, we have satellite images showing the complete destruction of an ammunition depot in Morozovsk following that drone attack. And these images do confirm extensive damage. And right here in this video, which I'll enlarge right here for you to see, there it was before and there it is after. It's no longer there, and it's been completely flattened thanks to these Ukrainian strikes. So it's going to take a lot of work to get all this stuff rebuilt and put back into action. And with that, we're moving into our next article here, which goes to Guy Elster. And also, you might notice we're moving on to our Israeli news at this moment, so we're moving away from our Ukraine news. So switching topics here, we're hearing from Guy Elster that U.S. officials say they expect an Iranian attack on Israel before the end of the week, according to the Wall Street Journal. And like I mentioned before, it's really hard to crystal ball exactly what's going to happen in the future with the Middle Eastern situation, so we're really just going to have to roll with what the U.S. officials are saying at the moment, because it seems like Iran is once again resorting to psychological warfare, saying that they're going to attack 1 minute, then they back off, then they say they're going to attack again, and then they back off once more, leaving the Israelis basically guessing when it's actually going to happen, and that sort of mixes the entire situation up and confuses everybody, and that's the Iranian goal. They're hoping to confuse Israel so that way their defenses won't be ready to go when they finally launch their attack. And with that, we're moving on to our next article here, and this one goes to Joe Truzman, and we're also learning that last night a vehicle was struck by an Israeli airstrike in the northern West Bank city of Tulkarm, and the IDF says it targeted a cell in the car. So, taking a look at this video up close, you can see here that the IDF is not playing around. They sent in a targeted strike to hit this car, which had somebody inside, which was a Hezbollah leader, which we'll get to in just a moment. But clearly, the Israelis are going all out with their assassinations on these Iran-backed proxies, and this is more proof of that. And also in our next post here, we're learning exactly who was in the car, and this post goes to Inside Geopolitics, and we're learning that Al-Nazi Abed Ali, a high-ranking senior official of Hezbollah, was the one eliminated in that strike. So once again, a very high profile assassination once again by the Israeli forces, and also a testament to the ability of the Israelis to precision strike these targets, individually find these people with really good intel, and actually take them out. The Israeli military is actually extremely impressive. They're really flexing their muscles here in the last week or so, and showing the Iranians just how very, very unsafe they really are, thanks to their really good intel. And as a direct result of these assassinations, we're learning that tensions are rising very rapidly, and in this post from Nexta, we're learning that something very serious is brewing in the Middle East, because now the US and UK have urged their citizens to leave Lebanon immediately in a very concerning sounding and worded statement. The US is advising its citizens to get a ticket to anywhere just to leave the potential conflict zone or to find shelter, and that the US Embassy in Beirut is urging American citizens to depart Lebanon on any available flight, and if necessary, if the Americans are lacking funds, then the diplomats will help pay for their trip out of the country. So it also says earlier that several European and Asian countries had already advised their citizens residing in Lebanon to take similar action. And to be perfectly honest, I'm really not sure what sparked this such an urgent statement here, because we knew that Lebanon was becoming unstable and that is a possible conflict zone, but apparently intel is received in the background by US and also UK officials that something horrific might happen right off the bat when war does start. So they're telling people to get out on any available flight and literally go anywhere. So they're warning people with the inch of their life, you better leave, or otherwise you're going to be left there and you're going to be in a very bad spot when something breaks out. So Lebanon is going to be at the forefront of this war when it finally does get sparked. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, which also goes to Nexta. And the very paranoid Iranian regime has now started arresting people after the Hamas leader was assassinated in his room in a compound right in the middle of Tehran. We're learning more than a dozen security officers and staff from the guest house where the Hamas leader was staying have been detained in Iran, and they will be interrogated as part of the investigation into his murder, reports the New York Times. And I will say that the Iranians are all over the place with their paranoia right now because of the assassination of the Hamas leader right in the middle of Tehran. The story by the Israelis was they hired some Iranian guys to go into the room where he was staying, they planted a bomb in there, and then the guy walked in and they blew it up. That's the Israeli version of the story. But now the Iranians are saying that some rocket actually hit the side of the building and took him out. So the story is all over the place right now, but all we know is the Hamas leader is indeed eliminated, he's dead, and whatever the case is, it was a major security failure by the Iranians right in the middle of their capital city, which has literally everybody on edge in the Iranian government. So with that, we're moving on to our next Twitter post here, and this one actually goes to us on Twitter, at It's the Enforcer. And also, just a real quick caveat, by the way, I'm Enforcer Matt, and I run the Twitter page for the Enforcer channel, so this is purely my opinion, and I said that Israel seems to have abandoned any hope of reaching a diplomatic resolution to the current situation with Iran, and the United States continues to hold back-channel discussions with the Israelis to no avail, and also the Iran-backed forces have gone silent. So this is just yet another piece of the puzzle, which leads me to believe that war is definitely inevitable in the Middle East, because now neither side, the Israelis nor the Iran-backed forces, or Iran themselves, want to talk with anybody about de-escalation. So it looks like it is coming to a head here, and it is going to end up with armed conflict, and really the question is, how large is it going to get? Will it continue for days? Will it continue for weeks? Or will it be a simple, maybe a 24-hour event? We just don't know, but right now, it's pretty much a guarantee that war will happen. It's just a matter of when and how large the attack is going to be. And also, one last article right here. I know the news that recently has been very heavy coming out. It's been very concerning and also somewhat stressful, so I have one more thing for you, and this goes to Null Reports. And we're learning of another bogged down Blyat barn, a Russian tank which has been modified to protect it, which looks like a complete joke. And right here, you can see a picture of it. There it is right there, looking like a complete piece of junk, and here it is right here, looking like a complete piece of charbroil. So it's burned. It's quite terrible, and just a piece of news to lighten the load a little bit with all this stressful news in between. But with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news for the day. So if you found today's video informative, please press the like button and also subscribe to our channel as well, because we greatly appreciate it to see that people like these short war videos and also our streams as well. Be sure to also go follow us on Twitter, at It's the Enforcer. We need some follows over there, and we would greatly appreciate it if you'd keep up to date real time on the Twitter page, and we also love to see the followers as well. So with that, thank you all for watching, and if you want to support our channel financially, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for our Patreon, where you can go over there, sign up for a monthly membership, and support the channel financially. And we're almost entirely crowdfunded by the viewers, so that does mean a ton to us, and it makes a huge difference. So with that, we'll see you all at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight on our next Nightly War News stream, and with that, bye-bye for now.